Alright guys, I hope you guys can see this clearly. What we're going to do in the future is we're going to get some thicker rope and we are going to really break down the knot for you guys so you can see exactly how we do it, sort of zoomed in. Okay, so this is 0.60. It's about as heavy as I would go, and this is what I'm going to be used for the hook snoot. There's that little number 434 swivel, two-way swivel. The knot I use is very simple. So it goes through the eye of the swivel. I then pinch on both those lines and I create a single loop. Then I'll take that tag end, and in most cases I'll only go through twice, but you can go through 3 times. Some of your high-end fluorocarbons will require a third turn. I'll do that for you because they tend to slip. This knot has never let me down. You'll notice that when I pull it slowly, it actually creates that figure of 8 look that we're looking for in our knots. Guys, very importantly as well, before you set that knot and pull it down, I know it's gross, but I'm gonna lick it. There, I've added a bit of moisture, I pull it down, and the reason why I do that is so when I set the knot, I don't get a major kink on my line just below the knot, causing it to wrap a little bit more than it should. Cut that tag end off, don't cut it off too short. You want to give yourself between sort of 7 and 10 mils, so that if there is knot slippage, which you can see here, there's 0, it's not going to slip. Okay, the length we fished was sort of round about, I don't know, between 40 and 45 centimeters. The hook snoot. We're then going to take this magical little float that prevents us from getting hooked up so much. We're going to pop it up onto our line. And that number 2 big gun we were talking about, exactly the same knot again. I'm going through the eye, holding the 2 lines together. I create that loop. My tag end's running up towards the swivel of the hook, and then I'm going to go through that loop. This time I'm only going to do it twice, just to show you guys that when I set that knot, there's no slippage and no risk of failure. So all I've done is I've tightened it up. I haven't set the knot yet. I give it a little lick just to give it a bit of moisture so I don't get that kink up on my hook. Always good to use your scissors or your sinker or whatever you have lying around just to give that knot. You'll see there a good crank. It's not moving. There's absolutely no slippage on that knot. Once again, don't cut that tag end off right against the hook. Give yourself sort of 5 to 10 mils. Serves 2 purposes. One is that little tag end will also assist in your bait flying down the shank of the hook and choking the hook up during the cast. And secondly, if there is any slippage like we spoke about, that tag end will take it up before it pulls loose. That little float, guys, next step, about 10-12 centimeters from your bait, you want to take a toothpick and you're just going to push it into that hole, what we call pinning the bait, the float, and then we're just going to chop that toothpick off, keep that for the next throw. Now that float can't move. So now once we've put our bait on, which we'll show you guys shortly, our rock bait, we will then slide this little float up to within a centimeter or 2 centimeters from where the bait ends. And when your bait is eventually eaten by all the little peckers, this float will keep that hook up off the bottom and stop you from getting hooked up in the rocks. Now we're on to our sinker. The sinker, like I said to you guys, we go quite a bit thinner. So in this case, I used a 0.40. And I'm going to do that same knot. I've showed you guys twice now. I'm going to do it a little bit quicker, the way I would as if I wasn't giving a tutorial. And like I said, we'll do it for you guys in a rope that you can see everything pretty clearly. I'm not even going to worry about lubricating. It's the sinker. Like I said in the main video, that's our sacrificial. Another little bit of advice, and something that we've also learned, is making your sinker line a bit shorter than the hook. And I'll tell you exactly why now. Let me just put that knot on there quickly. There it is.
While we're just showing with the sinker, Kelly, I do another one where like it's almost like a double up, and then I can feed it through here and around the
So you're creating
sinker,
a loop.
Yeah, so I can change up. Is that a bad thing or is that a good thing, or it doesn't really matter?
I don't think it really makes a difference. I think if you're fishing a rod that where you're in a situation where you might change between a sand sinker and a teardrop sinker, or a 3 ounce and a 4 ounce, then it's handy having the loop. But my personal opinion is it doesn't stop you from snapping up, or what we call rock rash, when the sinker bounces on a rock, damages the line, and in a throw it breaks it off. Because it's a single slip knot loop that you're using through there, you're losing just as many sinkers. What I do find, in my own opinion, is that it's just a little bit of a waste of line.
Okay.
Unnecessary loop that, I don't think I've ever seen anybody untake the loop and put another sinker on that loop.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it now. I never ever changed up any sinkers, and that's just like me. That's how I do things. But just having a look how you do it, probably the best way, guys. Never follow what I do, always.
Yeah. So our sinker's a little bit shorter for 2 reasons. So let's say for some magical reason this happened in the throw and on the way down, and you ended up with a tangle up. Your hook is still on its own and free with a bait on it. If it was the other way around, your hook would now be the shorter one of the two, tangled up with the line that goes down to the sinker, not giving the fish the opportunity to eat the hook.
Makes sense now.
So your hook always a bit longer. So irrespective of the tangle that can happen from your swivel down to your sinker, you still have a hook that a fish is able to eat. That is reason number one for me personally. The second reason being that when you're fighting a fish, this main line in this hand going up to my rod and this line going to my hooked fish are always going to be tight at all times. And that sinker's dragging. So the shorter that sinker line, the higher that sinker is going to be off the rocks. Once again, minimizing opportunity for hookup. If the sinker was longer, let's change this around and imagine I was holding the hook in this hand and that was the sinker. With a long sinker line, I'm now dragging that sinker through the rocks with a fish attached to the hook. The sinker will eventually find purchase. It'll find a crack, it'll find a hole, you'll get hooked up. So that's the 2 reasons why I fish with a shorter sinker line and a longer hook line. The 2 only reasons really. And then once again, sinker line's always thinner than the hook line, so that if the sinker does get hooked up and you're onto a fish, the thicker leader line and the stronger braid going up to the rod and the line going down to the hook are your strongest points of your tackle, what they call your terminal tackle. So the first thing to break is going to be this line. You sacrifice a sinker and you land the fish. So that's it, guys. Next, that's the simplicity of it. We're not going to immediately go into the FG knot, which takes your leader line to your braid. I want to get set up properly. It's quite a technical knot, and I've seen a couple of videos on YouTube where the guys try and do it with nylon, and it just doesn't really work. You can't really see what's going on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a piece of rope, and the knot that I use for my swivel, my hook, and my sinker, I'm going to show you in rope, and I'm going to do it slowly so you can see exactly how it's done, and hopefully that'll help you. I've had some criticism in the past about the knot, and the guys saying, figure of 8 is the way to go, or snelling every hook, or there's the old improved blood knot. But I've been using this knot for 30 years. It's yet to let me down. So guys, let's just imagine that's the eye of the hook, or the swivel, or the sinker. So you want to run those 2 lines together like that, with that line going up to the fishing rod or down to the hook, or whichever way. But anyway, so you're going to make a loop, and you want that tag end of the loop to be pointing up the line. Simple as that. And then you want to go through that loop once, twice. And you will, when you start setting this knot, get the perfect figure of 8. There it is, undisputable. So you want to, I'm not going to tie it too tight, we're going to be reusing, but there it is. This is the point or the stage in the process where you want to wet this line leading down to the sinker or the hook or the swivel. You want to wet this line so that as you pull it through the knot, it's lubricated. You don't get any heat-based friction happening here, reducing the strength of those tightened loops. Once you get it right down onto the hook, swivel or sinker, you want to grab both and give it a good pull. and then you want to give your main one a really good yank, which I'm not going to do now because this is just for demonstration purposes. Guys, really good knot. It's never let me down. I've never had issues with it. I've never had a knot breaking. Very, very good. Rock solid. I hope that proved to be helpful. And then, like I said, you'd want to cut it off, which I'm not going to do now. But that's it. That's the uni knot I use. I use it for just about everything. It is absolutely amazing. That's it, guys.